saw it burn low. I knew your friend, I go to this way. Nobody give me trouble, they know I got it made. 'Cause I'm bad, I'm nationwide.
Welcome back aboard the Broham Express, boys and girls. I do hope you're having a great day. All right, so look, here's the deal. Today we are going to be taking a flight from Guam to Japan. This video is probably 2 years old, I'm guessing. And it's story time with Broham. We'll get to the main story in just a moment. But first, let me explain the situation. Back in 2020, with the Rona lockdown, Broham decided that he needed a hobby, man. I was getting pretty stressed out about everything that was going on, saying some things on social media that I shouldn't have. And, well, truth's the truth. That's what I was doing. So I decided it was time to delete my Facebook account that I had at the time, shut my mouth, go on about my business, and move forward with my life. I also had the understanding that, well, if they don't understand by now, what's going to make them understand? So I moved on, and I decided to pick up a game as a hobby, and that game was called X-Plane Mobile. And if you want to know the truth, it was a lot of fun. I had a blast. And this is a handheld flight simulator game for the cell phone. It's nothing like your more expensive flight simulator games like DCS and some other options. I hope to get into one of those before too long. I started with a free version and eventually decided it was time to upgrade just a little bit, and went with a paid subscription, got me an F-22 Raptor. Decided to learn how to fly that thing, and every time they did an upgrade on it, it became a little bit more difficult to fly for a little while, till you figured out the upgrades that they had done to it. Now, so we're clear, I'm not bragging at all, I'm just telling the truth. When you see what I'm showing you, you see that I had amassed over 52,000 views, close to 200 subscribers, and right around 200 videos. Now, let's be real. In the real world on YouTube, that is nothing, absolutely nothing. I also never thought in a million years that I would get that many views or that many subscribers, and the only reason I had started posting videos was to try to find some friends to fly with and have a good time. Well, eventually, that is exactly what happened. While I do fully understand there is one person who would say, you weren't that good, I could also pull up messages between this person and I that's telling me that I was one of the best out there. Wouldn't tell me that on YouTube. That's okay, it doesn't matter. We're just having a good time. And I think most people know among fighter pilots, arrogance is a trait. The truth is, I'm really not that arrogant of a person. However, I do know exactly who I am. But it did come to the point where it became apparent that there was no better, after 3.5 years of playing this flight simulator, that there was nobody better at it than I was. Again, this isn't arrogance, it's the truth. I flew 2 different fighter jets all the way around the world the hard way. And that meant across the open ocean, which meant that you had to actually navigate and do some other things. I found out exactly how far the F-4 Phantom would go on a tank of gas. I also figured out exactly how far the F-22 would go, or fly, with a tank of gas at 50,000 feet at Mach 2. It got to the point where I held every record that there was to hold in this game, short of one. There's this one cat from over in England, I believe he was, that he actually took me on the short takeoff and landing with the little yellow Piper Cub. There came a point where I felt like the Lord was telling me to delete all the videos. And there's reasons why. I had a lot of rock and roll music in my videos, and I know there are a lot of you who would say, oh yeah, so what, big deal. I was trying to, in general, use the most innocuous, if that's the right word for it, rock music that I could come up with that I was a fan of. Some changes started taking place in my life. I felt like it was time to move on with Yeshua, the proper name of Jesus, so you know. And I'd reasoned with myself back and forth. Should I keep this channel up? Should I keep it going? Father, I could use this as a ministry opportunity. I'd also stated, if you want me to delete all the videos, I'll be happy to do so. Doesn't matter because none of it matters in the first place. The likelihood that more than 2 people who watched that channel will see this is, I'm guessing, is pretty slim, and it doesn't really matter. And some people would say, why isn't you just putting the video up over there? Because I don't want to, and I don't feel like that's what I was supposed to do. I also can't put it up on 2 channels. And then one day I heard the Lord say to me clearly, dump it all. Okay, no problem. So I did, and here we are. And why aren't you just putting up your new videos that you're making on that channel? I don't feel like I'm supposed to. I also felt sure that there was going to come a time that I was supposed to tell that story on this channel. I also felt, and still do believe, that the only way to do so was with an X-Plane Mobile long-haul video. So here we are. And I can tell you this, one of my all-time favorite things on X-Plane Mobile, the Tertiary Challenge was a long-haul flight from far eastern Canada to Tertiary Island. The point was to try to get a bunch of F-22s to fly wingtip to wingtip, and you had to follow specific parameters or you just weren't going to make it in general. I never had anybody that could hang, and they always used the excuse, oh, my internet connection cut out on me. They may have been telling the truth. They may not. I don't know, not my problem. So listen up, boys and girls. I want to tell you a true story. The first half of it, I will not give you all the details because I just won't. This story is a true story. Happened back in the late 1990s, and I have titled it Grace and Redemption. Okay? So look, back in the 90s, I used to deer hunt on public land in East Texas on a place called Unit 120. It was in Anderson County, and the eastern boundary was the Neches River. I had a few friends that I would hunt with, and a couple of them were from Houston, and we met other people in the woods along the way. It had us a good old time. Truth is, I was also doing some things at the time that I should not have been doing, and no, we were not poaching deer. We were not poaching animals. We was just being stupid, for lack of a better way of putting it. So, a couple of close friends of mine that I used to hunt with from my town in Ennis, Texas. Well, one of them was going with me that weekend, and the other one said that he couldn't make it for opening weekend because his wife would not allow him to go. And that's not my business, but this was back before everybody had cell phones, and we had a friend by the name of Pops. We called him Pops anyway, from down in Houston, and he was hunting with us at the time, so was his son. We was having us a good old time, man. Anyway, we had borrowed Pop's phone on Friday evening after we got there, Friday afternoon, and we was calling up our other buddy from Ennis and tell you, boy, you got to get out here. You have to come. You have to. Over and over, we was dialing up his phone till finally the last time I called, and his wife answered the phone, and she was mad, let me tell you, justifiably so. And said he's on his way out there. And he got there, and he was drunk when he showed up. And this cat would not shut up for the next 2.5 hours. Broham, I want to drive your truck. No. I want to drive your truck. No. I want to drive your truck. No. Like a kid, I want to drive your truck. No. He finally told me, he said, look, he said, if we just get the thing in gear, let me sit behind the wheel. We're going to be slow cruising, man. We need to go find some more firewood anyway. You can keep your hand on the steering wheel. You can kick it out of gear anytime you want. It's all good, man. Finally, he wore me down, broke me down, and we was cruising along, having us a good old time. Let me tell you, we were. Eventually got to the point where he decided he couldn't drive anymore. I realized I was not a drinker. I'd given it up by that point. And I was thinking to myself, he said, I can't drive anymore. I was thinking the whole time, bruh, you ain't been driving anyway, dog. You've had your foot on the gas pedal, cruising us along about 10 miles an hour. Nevertheless, I said to him, well, stop, and I threw it out of gear, and we switched places, and I knew I should have turned left, but I didn't. He said, go straight. I was thinking to myself, if I go straight, it's going to take us at least an extra 30 minutes to get back to the campsite, and he knew that. Some stupid reason, I decided I was going to go straight instead of turning left. And we topped the hill, we bottomed the next hill, we topped the next hill, and out of nowhere, there's a game warden standing in the middle of the road. He reached over, grabbed the door handle of my truck. It was unlocked. He said, get out. Well, long story short on all this, he could have took us all to jail. He was well within his rights. And like I said, we were not poaching deer. We was chasing firewood. We had a truck full of firewood in the back by this point. And where's your weapons during the campsite? If we would have had our weapons with us, we would have went to jail. No doubt. And I'm not going to get into all the details of this, but this cat told us, he said, if you shut your buddy up, I'm going to cut y'all some slack, and y'all get up out of my woods and don't come back. Better not see you again this weekend. I said, by any means necessary? He said, by any means necessary. I suggest you shut his mouth. So the only punch that was ever thrown between me and my best friend happened that night. And I laid him out. And I come down on top of him. And I told him, boy, you better shut your mouth. The only reason we're not going to jail right now is because he told me if I could shut you up, he would send us to the house. Shut your mouth and get in the truck, boy. That's exactly what happened. We blazed us a trail up out of there, and that's called grace. Because we could have went to jail, and we should have went to jail. And no, I haven't told you the whole story. No, I'm not going to. Anyway, that was opening weekend of deer season, rifle season that year. And needless to say, that was the last time that particular cat ever went to the woods with me. The other one, we kept going to the woods, we kept having us a good time and doing the stupid stuff that we was doing. And it come closing weekend of deer season. Now realize I said we had met other people out in the woods that we had become friends with. And this year, I think it was the second year that we had met or had known or met this father and son team. And they were out of Oklahoma hunting in Texas. And during that, they were camped, 20 yards from us. And we decided it was time to go get firewood. And that was me, my buddy Daryl, and our friend Pops. We were the only three in our immediate camp right there. And I had a Mazda B3000, which is just a Ford Ranger with Mazda written on it. We come back to the campsite. My truck was loaded down, heavy, stacked up to the back of the cab, full of firewood, a lot of heavy logs. And when we got back to the campsite, this dude and his dad were nowhere to be seen, but I could hear their dog in their tent whining, crying. And it was like, what's up with that? I wondered. Dog wants out. And a few seconds later, we started hearing a muffled, help. help. And that was off in the distance over what we called Sasquatch Hill, later called Sasquatch Hill. And you had to go up and over and up and over and up and over a couple of times till you got where you was going. Anyway, so we started hearing somebody, help, and we weren't sure that's what we were actually hearing. So we hollered back. And he hollered back. We're like, oh, this is not sounding good. So we decided it was time that me and Daryl was going to cruise up over this hill and see if we could go find this guy. Well, like I said, you had to cruise up over one hill, down another, up another, and down into the creek bed on the other side. And the weird part was, it didn't seem like there was any legitimate reason we should be able to hear this guy, other than sounds and echoes do weird things in the woods, and especially through the valleys that echo. Well, let's just say it was probably a 200 to 300 yard trek each direction, at least. And when we got to him, he was laying in a dry creek bed, and he was helping me get up. I fell out of the tree. And we look at this tree, and there's those screw-in steel climbing spikes going up the side of this tree. And we're like, how far did you fall? He said, approximately 40 foot. And he had a climbing harness on him, and there was a branch that, good-sized branch, that was right next to him. And he explained to us that the branch had snapped off when he had to take the harness off to get above said branch and reattach it. And this is a skinny dude, and the branch snapped off, and he fell, and he bounced and landed in that creek bed. We're like, can you feel your legs? Well, they're kind of tingly. And he was kind of laying on his side a little bit, said he was in a whole lot of pain in the middle of his back. And I ran my fingers down his spine, and there was a slight bulge, and I said, there is zero chance, bro, that I'm fixing to move you out of here. And I looked at my buddy Daryl, and we were both in agreement, this is not going to happen. So, like I said, this was back in the day before cell phones, or at least before they were common and everybody had one. And there was nobody else in the woods around here besides us and his dad. And the only time I had ever driven Pop's truck, our friend Pop's, I believe it was a 96 Mazda, not a Mazda, 96 Toyota T100 4x4 with a camper shell. And you see some of my other videos, you might recognize it. Had on top of it one of those safari tents, and I needed to get somewhere quick. Somebody needed to get somewhere quick. Somebody also needed to be on the phone calling 911. And I got back to the campsite, told Pops, I need your truck. I need to go find his dad. He's about 1.5 miles down the road, and I need to go get him. And he tossed me his keys without question. I cruised up down the road, found his dad, told him his son got a problem, and brought him, he come back with us and everything. And by this point, I can't tell you exactly what time it was, but the sun's starting to go down, or at least set just a little bit anyway. And Pops calls 911, gets the county on the phone, who eventually gets, the game warden on the phone, and life flight and all that good stuff. And we're being told that nobody knows how to get to where you are. We're like, what do you mean nobody knows how to get to where we are? Get the game warden on the phone, dog. Just get the game warden on the phone and patch him through. There's no way the game warden's not going to know where Unit 120 is. And they finally got the game warden patched through. He knew where Unit 120 was, but had zero clue where we were. So we had to bust out telling them landmarks with this particular bridge in which direction are you going to come from? I believe it was called Hobson's Bridge, if I remember right. Anyway, there's a four-way just west of it, maybe a half mile. You had to go north and wind around till you finally got to where we were. And this cat had to be talked in, and so did everybody else. And Pops was doing that over the cell phone. And the very first person to show up was the game warden. Same game warden. Same game warden. He was not friends of ours. He was not a fan of ours. And by this point, it was getting dark. And from our perspective up on this hill, in this valley on this hill, at some point you were able to start seeing red and blues coming. And we come down and met him, and the game warden come back up with us, took us to the dude. And it wasn't but a minute, the game warden asked us, "Where are your weapons?" He said, "Do you see the eyes in the woods of the coyotes?" "Yes." "Go get your weapons. I'll stand watch till y'all get back, and this entire situation has to be dealt with." It wasn't but a few minutes. There were another county boy or two out there that showed up, and an ambulance, and some other vehicles, emergency vehicles. And we told them up front, "You're not going to be able to take this dude out of the woods in an ambulance. He will be paralyzed." They had sent life flight. Well, Unit 120 was one of those places where they were doing a lot of clear cut for lumber, because the entire place was leased out from property owners to the government, leased to, excuse me, a paper mill company. And they were doing a lot of clear cutting because of that. And now, this is one of the coolest things I had ever seen in my life up to that point. And I don't mean the dude being hurt, but I mean the talking over the radios amongst everybody that was out there. Now, we had gone and got our weapons, so you understand, and we were keeping an eye on the woods. And by the time we got that many people out there, the coyotes were no longer a concern. Needless to say, they would have ate this cat up eventually. And as I remember, his gun was broken. It wasn't within 10 feet of him anyway, and he couldn't get to it. So now you see a helicopter coming in several thousand feet in the air from the northwest. And they're talking, and they got the spotlight and shining on the ground, not to us yet, but you could hear the life flight pilot stating, "I can land in this field right here." If we're like, "No, no, no, you cannot. That is a clear-cut area with stumps that are 2 foot tall. You'll kill yourself and everybody. It won't work out right." And so is there some other place we can land? Yes, there is some other place you can land. And we know how to get to it. We know where it is. It's a little further away. And, well, we had to take that game warden to that spot. And before they could ever get the dude out of the woods, we were on our way to that spot. And it took a few minutes before the game warden ever got there. I mean, before anybody else ever got there. And one of the cool things about it was when the plane come and hovered above our location where this dude was, shining that light down, lighting the place up like a Christmas tree. It was pretty sweet, man. And they toted that dude on the stretcher down to the ambulance, and before they ever left, we had cruised down the road, and we asked the game warden, "Do you have bolt cutters? Or are we going to have to shoot the lock off this guy's private property that was a well-manicured field of probably 50, 60 acres. I think he had some hay growing in it, and it was nice and green. I don't know. But game warden had bolt cutters. We got there, he cut the lock, and at this point we had another vehicle with us. So there were 3 in total at the time. And we all parked a couple of 100 yards apart in a triangle with the lights pointing towards the center, and I didn't need to be, none of us needed to be told to do that. It was, just logic and common sense, because this was the spot that helicopter pilot was going to set that helicopter down in the dark. And he did so easily. It was cool, man. He knew what he was doing. Well, they cruised this dude in, slap his backside up into the helicopter, and cruised him up out of there. Well, said game warden cruised right up to us in his truck and just shook his head at us like, you guys did a good job. Said thanks. And he left, and we didn't see him again. He didn't mess with us. Legitimately, he could have, but he didn't. He told us, good job, guys. Good job. Shook his head in approval. And we never saw him again out in those woods. We hunted out there for several more years. Never saw him again. But Dad took off with him in the helicopter. And that left the dog in the campsite and all of their ridiculous amounts of stuff that they had that needed to be packed up. And this dude's dad had our friend Pop's phone number, and they called back and forth, and we got the good news probably a day later, maybe 2 days later, I'm not real sure, that the doctors, and if I remember right, surgeon, I do believe he had to have surgery. That's been a long time ago, and I don't really remember for sure. But I do know that the doctor for sure sent a message back and told us, good job, guys. And yeah, if you would have moved him, he would have been paralyzed. Zero doubt about it. And I think it was a year or two later when they made it back out to the woods with us. Anyway, the rest of that trip, we took care of his dog. Took good care of his dog. We even fed that dog steak. It just seemed like the right thing to do, man. Packed up all their stuff, strapped it down in the back of this truck, and it was as high as the back of the cab, where nothing was going to fall out. Have it covered with tarps and everything. Other family members came out and from Oklahoma, drove out from Oklahoma to pick up one of the two trucks that they had brought with them. Anyway, this story was entitled Grace and Redemption. Our grace and redemption was with the game warden. Say what you want about this young man. He got protection from things that could have happened to him, for sure. So I have a Bible verse for you today, considering what happened here, considering this story. That's Romans chapter 5, verses 20 and 21. It says, moreover, the law entered that offense might abound, but where sin abounded, grace abounded much more. So that as sin reigned in death, even so grace might reign through righteousness to eternal life through Yeshua, our Lord. I wonder if some of you know exactly how much grace God has given you in your life. Man, you should be thankful. I know He's given me so much grace. It's just over the top. And I couldn't be more thankful for that. I would encourage you to submit your life to the Lord today and ask Him, what are those things that you need to cut out? If you've never made Him your Lord and Savior, I'd like to talk to you about that. It's not about a specific prayer and religion and that kind of thing. It is literally about His Word and a personal relationship with Him. There are those of us who can and would be happy to guide you into that process. Regardless, I just want to tell you, God bless you, love you. Do hope you have a great day today. And by the way, all right, look, don't forget, Broham also sells natural soap for men and boys. Grab a chunk and lose the funk. You don't want all those chemicals all over your skin, man. It's not good for you. Head on over to brohams.org and get yours today. Well, all right, boys and girls, I guess it is time to bring her in for a landing. Anyway, boys and girls, I do hope you have enjoyed your ride upon the Broham Express today. And yes, another thing about this video game, everything does run in real time. However, I do have it sped up significantly to match the amount of time in this video or this story. So anyway, once again, boys and girls, as I stated before, I do hope you enjoyed your ride upon the Broham Express. Peace.
Here's something